What would you do if your car broke down in a ghost town where no one had lived for 50 years? Or if you stumbled on a cabin in the woods that seemed too perfect, like it was waiting for you? These aren't just scary stories. These are true accounts of people who found themselves alone, in the middle of nowhere, and came face to face with something horrifying. If you think nothing bad happens in remote places, you've never been stranded long enough to hear what whispers after dark. Hey, it's Mr.EvilWakes, bringing you 3 disturbing true horror stories that happened far from civilization. These stories are based on real-life accounts of people who ventured into the wilderness, the desert, and the dead zones of forgotten America, and barely made it back. If you love real horror stories, creepy mysteries, and terrifying encounters in the middle of nowhere, this one's for you. Before we dive in, do me a favor. Subscribe, like, comment your scariest experience, and share this with someone who thinks they're brave enough to watch till the end. And don't forget to follow Mr.EvilWakes on TikTok and YouTube for more stories that will haunt your nights. Now, let's get into it. Story 1. The Gas Station That Wasn't There, Nevada Desert, 2009. In 2009, a man named Jordan was driving cross-country from San Diego to Salt Lake City. It was late October, a cold front was pushing through Nevada, and he took a back route recommended by his GPS to avoid traffic on the main highway. Big mistake. About 3 hours into the detour, his fuel gauge hit empty. He hadn't seen another car in nearly an hour. The landscape around him was just dead dirt, broken fences, and the skeletons of abandoned motels from the 60s. But then, like a miracle, he saw an old gas station ahead. Faded red neon flickered in the shape of a Pegasus. There were 2 rusted pumps and an old diner attached. An elderly man in a blue uniform stepped out, smiling. Jordan got out of the car and asked if the pump worked. The man just nodded and filled the tank, without a word. Jordan offered to pay. The man simply said, "You'll pay later." Inside the diner, it was oddly warm and bright, with 1950s music playing faintly from a jukebox. 3 customers sat at the counter, motionless. No food, no drinks, just staring at the wall. Jordan felt uneasy, so he left quickly. 10 minutes down the road, Jordan checked his rearview mirror. There was nothing. No gas station, no sign of the diner. Just desert. The road behind him was completely empty. He drove straight through to Salt Lake, shook up and confused. Weeks later, he returned to retrace his route. He found the exact coordinates. He knew where it should have been. But where the gas station once stood was nothing but scorched earth and old, blackened wooden beams. He talked to a local sheriff who said, "Son, that station burned down back in 1972. Nobody's been out there since." Story 2. The Hollow Cabin, Appalachian Mountains, 2016. In 2016, Emma and her fiancé Sam went hiking in the Appalachians. They were experienced campers but decided to go a little off-grid, about 9 miles off the main trail to find a secluded place to propose under the stars. The trip was supposed to be romantic. It turned into a nightmare. On their second night, it began to snow, unexpectedly and heavily. They got lost trying to find the trail again. With no signal and only a few hours of daylight, they panicked. That's when they saw it. A small wooden cabin tucked into the hillside. One light in the window. They knocked. No answer. The door creaked open. Inside was clean. Too clean. No dust, no cobwebs. A fire was already lit. It was like someone had just left. On the table, 2 bowls, 2 spoons, and a kettle still warm. But no one was there. They were desperate, so they stayed. That night, they heard footsteps pacing the porch, but every time Sam checked, nothing was there. Around 3:30 a.m., Emma awoke to the sound of whispering, words she didn't recognize. When she opened her eyes, a tall man in dark overalls was standing by the bed. But when she screamed and Sam turned on his flashlight, no one was there. The next morning, they left in a hurry. But here's the thing. When they told a ranger about the cabin and showed him photos, The ranger went pale. He said, "That cabin burned down in 1991. A couple froze to death inside. Locals say it only shows up to the lost." Emma still keeps the photo on her phone. The cabin is there, but no one else can see it. Story 3, Screams from the Silo, Kansas Farmland 2022. In June 2022, a freelance photographer named Luis drove through central Kansas to shoot abandoned farms for a horror photo project. One property he visited was marked as condemned, an old 1940s grain farm with a rusted silo, a broken windmill, and an eerie wooden house full of peeling wallpaper and forgotten memories. Luis arrived just before sunset. He began taking pictures of the silo when he heard it, screaming, faint, like it was coming from deep underground. He thought maybe it was an animal, but as he got closer, he heard words. "Help me." He climbed the rusted ladder, hoping to get a better angle from the top, but the hatch was chained shut from the outside. Something, or someone, was locked in. His instincts told him to run, but curiosity won. He cut the chain with bolt cutters he had in his gear. When he opened the hatch, a blast of freezing air shot up, despite it being 90 degrees outside. He pointed his flashlight down into the darkness and saw faces. Human faces, twisted, screaming, pressed against the interior walls like they were trying to get out. He fell back in terror and bolted to his car. He called the sheriff, but when they arrived 40 minutes later, the silo was sealed. No broken chain. Nothing inside but dirt and dust. They accused him of trespassing and told him to delete the photos. Luis didn't. He posted one photo anonymously online weeks later, and it briefly went viral. It showed the interior wall of the silo, and in the rust patterns and grime, you can clearly make out the imprint of a screaming face. But here's the twist. Metadata showed the image had been taken in 1954. If you ever find yourself lost in the middle of nowhere and something feels off, trust your gut. Sometimes you're not alone out there. And sometimes the only thing worse than being alone is realizing something is waiting for you. Subscribe to Mr.EvilWakes for more real horror stories you'll never forget. Like, share, and comment your scariest experience, especially if you've ever been somewhere no one should be. Follow on TikTok and YouTube for weekly nightmares. You've been warned.